All right, so this is Beth here, manager of Harper Wellness, and we have two amazing guests with us today to talk a little bit about the Job Placement Resource Center, because we all know that we need jobs and there's a lot that goes into it. And so we're so thankful to have amazing colleagues at Harper to help students really best prepare for their current or future careers. So Nancy, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. I am Nancy Moadano, and I'm joined by my colleague Anne Garoon, and we are both workforce coordinators. So thanks again for having us.
Absolutely. And so I'm just going to get right into it because I'm obviously a former college graduate, and I know how important resume writing is. So first off, like, what are your top 3 tips for resume writing?
Okay, so top 3 tips. Well, first thing is to always remember that the resume is really your first impression. So that's the first thing that the employers want to get. So there's some things that you always want to make sure of on their super important document. And the goal is an interview, right? And so these are the top things that we suggest. First, it should be clear, concise, and consistent, and tell your story in that way. And so basically, all the T's need to be crossed, the I's need to be dotted. It really needs to show that you took that time to make sure that it is spot on. Also, it should always be targeted to your audience. So no matter what type of position, whether it's a job or for a scholarship or even a college application, it may look different depending on who your audience is. So we definitely want to do that. The other thing too, this is huge. It could be a beautiful resume, but there should be absolutely no spelling or grammar errors. So check it and recheck it and always have somebody else check it to make sure.
Awesome. Those are amazing. And getting this job, you check it and recheck it. And I think it's so important to have a different perspective all the time. So thank you for sharing that. Jesus?
Yeah, and so we've been working kind of remotely and dealing with being in a remote kind of environment for a little bit over a year. And how has the job process changed with things being remote now?
That's a good question. And really, the job search has changed because of how the world has changed and how the economy has changed as well. Many industries have been hard hit, other industries are growing, but we're seeing an uptick now on jobs being posted on job boards and job fairs. So feel really encouraged that the employment situation is going to be better. Of course, most of this is still going to go on remotely or virtually, and you need to do your research. You need to understand what job targets you're looking for. We recommend using social media. So if you don't have a LinkedIn account yet, you might want to create a LinkedIn account, use Instagram, use Facebook, other sources. Networking, super important. And while we have harder to meet somebody now for a cup of coffee at Starbucks, you could zoom in on them and each have a cup of coffee and talk to each other about what's going on in the industry. As Nancy said, your resume is even more important than ever before. Employers are getting so many resumes, so the better it looks, the better it sounds, the better it talks about what you can do for them, the more successful you're going to be. So remember that you have to stay positive, you have to be organized, you have to do your networking, your research about companies. Don't get discouraged. Stick with Beth and do some wellness along the way while you're doing the job search, because it's going to take a little longer and be a little harder, but we can help you be successful.
Wonderful. And I think it's so important, even finding the job that I have now, and I had been in the field for a couple of years, it still took a lot of time to land a job. So I think even, students who have just graduated, or if you've been in the job, multiple years, it still takes time and it doesn't happen overnight. And so I think that's so important no matter where you're at in your career. So kind of thinking about that, if folks are trying to interview for their first job, or maybe it's their 5th job in their life, what are your top 3 tips for interviewing either in person or via video conference?
Sure. So for both, whether you're interviewing in person or over video, the goal is the same, to get a job offer, right? And so a lot of the preparation or the top 3 tips are the same. So really it's preparation, practice, and confidence. And so what goes into the preparation, really having a clear understanding of the position and having stories prepared to talk about what skills and what your qualifications are in relation to that. So that's part of that preparing. Other part of that is research that company, because sometimes that first or second question isn't tell me about yourself, it's tell me what you know about our company and why do you feel you're a good fit, right? And so they'll know right away if you've done that research. And so that's really, really important. Have questions ready for the employer. So you want to look at it as a conversation, a two-way communication, but also at the end, a lot of times a big part that's forgotten is having those questions ready to ask at the end. So that answer should always be yes, and you can definitely bring those with you. Get details about what kind of interview it will be. So even if it's in person, asking questions of how many people will I be interviewing with, what will that look like? So you know how to prepare and just be mentally ready about that and bring the materials you need for that, right? And if it's virtual, then you know how to prepare for that as well. Get your technology ready, get your background ready, all of that good stuff. So that helps as well. And then of course, what you wear. You want to be prepared in terms of preparing that outfit, dress professionally, and really show, again, that first impression in person that you took that time to do that. As far as practicing, it's key, right? Don't wing it. It sounds great in your head, but when you're sitting in front of that person, can come out completely different, right? And so that's key. So practice the common interview questions. Again, the more you know about the position, you can kind of gauge what kind of questions they may ask you. This is where those stories come into play when you're actually going to be talking about those, right? And so the common interview questions, also behavioral interview questions, tell me about a time when, describe a time when, really hard to think about on the spot, right? So you want to have those prepared. Both practicing how you communicate both verbally and non-verbally. What you say can sound is great, but you're like sitting like this or have your arms crossed or looking at the door to get out of there. So it's really important to really pay attention to those as well. Try to practice in the same environment as your interview. So if it's a phone interview, try to practice over the phone, virtually, those types of things. So that can really help with that, getting comfortable with the camera. And then use the resources you have to practice. So the JPRC is here to help one-on-one with mock interview. We also have an awesome tool available for students called Big Interview that will actually record you. And you can watch your recording, we can watch it with you and talk about that as well. So, so whether you do that or meet with us, also, you got to say it out loud. So even just practicing in front of a mirror, getting that out and actually being able to verbalize that as well. So those are the key things, and that leads to confidence, right? So this is key. So that practice and preparation is really going to bring you to that.
Those are really great tips, Nancy. And it kind of reminds me, I was interviewing for my first job out of grad school, and I had a friend, she would throw me a ball, and then once I caught the ball, she would ask me a question, and that's how we practiced. So I definitely took your advice, and I eventually landed a job. So whatever I did was working in some way. Jesus.
Yeah, same thing along those lines, like with what Nancy mentioned with confidence. Someone mentioned to do a superhero pose right before your interview, just to kind of boost your confidence up a little bit. And I did that for one of my interviews, and I got the job. So even that little moment can kind of boost that confidence and boost your conversation with your interview. But you definitely mentioned preparation is key. How can students utilize the JPRC resources that you provide in their search process?
Well, we are open all year round. We open during the summer. So if you're coming up on graduation, this is a great time to come and see us as the semester ends, as well as over the summer. We are working with students virtually through WebEx, Zoom, phone, whatever it takes. We're open from 8 to 4:30. You can reach us by phone at 847-925-6400 or email us at jprc@harpercollege.edu. We have lots of resources, but I think our best resources are our staff. And we encourage you to meet with us one-on-one. That way we can help you customize a job search that's going to be just your fit. It's very difficult to say, here's a resume sample, follow it, because everybody's story is a little different, and we want you to help you to tell your story in the best possible way. A good place to start, if you want to get to know us, is to go to the Harper College JPRC website. You can just put JPRC in Harper's search engine and you'll find us. And there is so much information, you're going to be amazed. There's sample resumes and cover letters for all the areas of interest, sample interview questions, webinars, videos, short little tapes that will help you answer questions, how to create a LinkedIn account, how to market yourself, job search strategy tips, so much information. And of course, that's all open to you 24/7. So you don't have to be within our time frame. Just one of the other things, Nancy mentioned mock interviews. We of course do those. We have big interview. And also we run a job board out of our office that is just fantastic for students to get their feet wet if they've never used a job board, or if they've experienced, they're going to find there's a lot of great opportunities on there. One reason is that the employers are all from our area, generally speaking. They know Harper provides their students with excellent education. So they are looking for Harper students. They know they may not have a lot of experience, but they have that education and that passion to go forward with their careers. So we recommend you go on our website, find the link to Hire a Hawk, register and start doing a job search. But mostly we want to see you come into our office and meet us virtually, because we get lonely too. And I think you'll find that that's the most beneficial way to get your job search started.
Yes, these were such good pointers and information. And I think something that stuck out to me, and that you mentioned, is that your resume is like telling your story. And so I think it's such a great opportunity to own your awesome, and you get to share that story with someone else who you're interviewing with. And the two of you, along with the rest of the folks in the JPRC, can help you tell your story to the best of your ability. And so thank you both for joining us this afternoon to provide a little snippet into how the JPRC can help Harper students.